Hello friends, here is a short intro to Stalker: Clear Sky. It is a survival horror game, a prequel to the first installment of Stalker: Shadow of Chernobyl. This game occurred within the zone of alienation in Chernobyl, Ukraine, in 2011. The main protagonist of this game is employed by a military organization known as Clear Sky. He sends after a group of previous stalkers attempting to breach the center of the zone. Now without further ado, let's get into the story. The game's main character, Scar, is shown guiding an unknown ecologist team through the Great Swamp. However, as they get closer, waves of mutants begin to surge in, and soon after that, psychic waves begin to flood the area. Later, Scar wakes up in the headquarters of the Clear Sky Group, a secret and independent zone organization whose mission is to learn more about the zone and the phenomena it is experiencing. The faction leader Lebedev and his right-hand man Kalanka notice that Scar is still unconscious and that his brain is still undamaged. This is unusual because typically any human exposed to an emission perishes. Lebedev describes his condition to Scar as he awakens. However, one of Clear Sky's outposts quickly interrupts them by calling for reinforcements. Scar is then dispatched by Lebedev to assist the outpost patrol. But when he gets close, an emission happens, and Scar is hit once more, causing him to fully recover inside Clear Sky's base. Scar's survival amazes Lebedev, who theorizes that the zone is being disturbed by a sharp rise in energy discharges coming from the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. In its center, the root of the problem is thought to be human activities. In other words, the emissions are a result of the zone's own immune reaction. The zone is attempting to swallow the individual who has reached the center in order to keep its secrets hidden. The emissions are not only dangerous to all the stalkers in the zone, but they are also having a special effect on Scar's body and immune system, which, if they continue, will kill him. Furthermore, the zone can eventually turn out to be incredibly dangerous and out of control if the emissions persist. Scar's job is to track down any activity involving stalkers who are attempting to access the zone's center. The fact that a suspicious party was found speaking with the traitor Sidorovich in the cordon, which defines the southern border of the zone, is the first hint. Scar travels to the cordon on his own after assisting Clear Sky forces to retake the wetlands, where Sidorovich contacts him. Scar meets Sidorovich after narrowly avoiding the military outpost close to his entry point, and the two talk about what is happening in the cordon. After the military betrayed the loners and sold some of them to the rival bandits groups, the loners and the military began to turn against one another. The military leader Major Koletsky was taken hostage by the loners, who were commanded by Father Valerian, as vengeance. A case of plunder that the loners were bringing to Sidorovich has vanished as a result of the following conflict. Sidorovich has promised to reveal some information in exchange for Scar locating and returning the case. Koletsky, though, is adamant about keeping the location of Sidorovich's case a secret. Two of Koletsky's closest friends, a general and another military officer, are revealed to be the targets of Valerian's request to kill them so that Koletsky will give the location, and realize he won't be freed anytime soon. Koletsky thus effectively reveals the case's location. Scar retrieves the case and delivers it to Sidorovich again. The player now has two choices: either leave Koletsky behind to be killed or secretly assist him in escaping by giving him a weapon. Now that he is happy, Sidorovich performs his responsibility. He explains that the group that came to see him was searching for certain unusual components. He gave them directions to the garbage, where a collection of abandoned items and antiquities are placed out for looting. Fong was a member of the group. Scar tries to locate Fong by going to the garbage, the center of the bandits area, but instead only finds a PDA that belongs to Freshy's group, which Fong and his friends had gone to meet. The PDA directs the player to a digger by the name of Vazhin, who was assigned by Freshy to help find Fong and convince him to pay at least a half price for the components they dug up in the garbage. Fong did not pay the diggers because they did not find all of the components. Vazhin, on the other hand, lost Fong while being chased by a pack of blind dogs, leaving him trapped on a rock. Scar then appears and assists Vazhin in killing the hounds that had been hunting him. Vazhin thanks the player and informs him that Fong is on his way to the Dark Valley, the Freedom Group's home base. Scar travels to the Dark Valley to discover the Freedom Group defending the region from mysterious attacks. Scar is asked to help the Freedom Group by killing a Psydog close to the faction's base by Chekhov's right-hand man, Lingov, since Chekhov cannot be reached due to the quarantine. Later, when Scar is assigned to deliver supplies to a nearby outpost, he discovers that the Freedom Guards have been killed. There, he discovers a PDA that proves mercenaries were responsible for the attacks and that Lingov had sold out the group to them. Lingov was in charge of keeping an eye on the patrols and movements of the group, so this was simple for him to do. Later, Scar meets up with Chekhov, who asks him to follow Lingov. Later, as Scar helps Freedom in taking over a mercenaries-controlled farmstead, he discovers Lingov dead. To get further information, Scar assists Freedom in dealing with the mercenaries and the commander. Chekhov informs Scar that shortly after seeing the Dark Valley, Fong went back to the garbage in quest of further supplies. Chekhov thanks Scar for his assistance. Scar can now aid Freedom in driving the mercenaries group out of the Dark Valley, which will benefit Chekhov even more. Scar goes back to the trash and then goes to the Loners Flea Market. He enters the flea market's basement, where he is assaulted and knocked out by bandits. The trap that the bandits set for Fong ended up catching Scar. Scar is uninjured as they steal his gear and flee, leaving him. Lebedev awakens Scar and alerts him to the presence of Fong's PDA. It is discovered, and the groups are identified. A tiny band of skilled stalkers known as the Strelok Group is attempting to enter the zone's core. The log indicates that they have done it once and will forcefully do it again. Lebedev says these are the targets the zone is attempting to eliminate, but it is unclear how they managed to get past the Brain Scorcher or why they are acting this way. Scar must use all available measures to track down the group after learning that they headed toward the Agriprom Research Institute. Scar must first retrieve his equipment from the bandits who took it for that to happen. Scar visits the Agriprom Institute, which is controlled by Duty, Freedom's opponent. The commander of Duty is struggling to get rid of the extremely hazardous mutants that are overrunning the zone. General Krulov, the Duty commander, informs Scar that Strelok visited the Agriprom Underground. The Underground, however, is a dangerous place because it is populated by mutants that seek every day to breach the Agriprom and murder Duty stalkers. In return for more information, Scar offers to go inside and eliminate the mutants. Scar battles mutants to enter, then floods the underworld to wipe out the mutants there. Further investigation leads him to the conclusion that Strelok had a hiding place underground, where he finds a PDA confirming the group's plans to travel to the Wish Grantaire and the power plant. Lebedev assigns Scar the extremely difficult mission of murdering Strelok before he reaches the center, making their goals plain in the process. Clear Sky will surprise the others and stop them while Scar pursues him. Scar leaves the underground knowing it will take a while to get to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant and moves north. Scar arrives at Yentar, a region dominated by loners. Zombie hordes are trying to flood the factory close to the science bunker. Zombies are ordinary people, whose brains have melted due to a powerful psi field emanating from nearby. Scar is informed by Professor Sakharov, who is present in the area, that the group did pass through and that Strelok, the group's leader, had agreed to test a prototype psi device. Strelok wanted to keep the prototype in exchange. By using the device, a person would be able to entirely withstand and prevent psi emission effects, such as those caused by the Brain Scorcher. Scar is tasked with finding notes left behind by a group of recently deceased stalkers close to the facility in order to better understand this. These writings outline the effects of the psi field and provide an explanation for why the nearby emissions are taking place. The psi emitter inside Lab X-16 needs its defective cooling system fixed in order to continue. Else, psi emissions will continue. Scar joins forces with a group of loners commanded by Lefty, who is trying to reactivate the coolant pumps within the facility, while under constant bombardment from zombie waves. The zombie problem would disappear if the emissions stopped. Scar is thanked by Professor Sakharov for his assistance before being informed that a signal from the prototype gadget has been picked up. Scar is tasked with finding notes left behind by a group of recently deceased stalkers close to the facility in order to better understand this. These writings outline the effects of the psi field and provide an explanation for why the nearby emissions are taking place. The psi emitter inside Lab X-16 needs its defective cooling system fixed in order to continue. Else, psi emissions will continue. Scar joins forces with a group of loners commanded by Lefty, who is trying to reactivate the coolant pumps within the facility, while under constant bombardment from zombie waves. The zombie problem would disappear if the emissions stopped. Scar is thanked by Professor Sakharov for his assistance before being informed that a signal from the prototype gadget has been picked up. Then Lebedev gets in touch with Scar. The quickest route through the brain scorcher to the plant was through the tunnel. Lebedev tries to come up with a solution to cross the drawbridge, which is raised over radioactively dangerous water and is guarded by bandits. Unfortunately, via the neighboring town of Lemansk, the bridge is currently the sole practical route to the city. Scar is sent to an elderly zone inhabitant in the Red Forest by the name of Forrester, who is guarded by duty and could know the path. In these places, Forrester is recognized as a well-known guide. Forrester informs Scar that there is a way when they meet. Leshy was leading a troop of stalkers and mercenaries who were trying to cross over when they became trapped in a spatial anomaly, somewhere close to Lemansk. They are unable to escape because all attempts to do so only lead to their initial location. Scar first goes to the destroyed army warehouses to speak with some mercenaries commanded by Hogg, who heard some radio communications coming from a nearby tower. Scar hears what is happening to the people who are stuck in the spatial anomaly when he gets there. He then helps in obtaining a special relic for Forrester so that he can leave the zone. Forrester thinks it would be useful in leading the crew out of the anomaly. The last step is to get in touch with the stalkers who are stuck and let them know how to escape the anomaly. Scar will need to locate a transmitter with sufficient power to reach them in order to do that, though. Scar is instructed to return to the military warehouses, where he meets up with Leshy's mercenary allies. They are aware of a military radio transmitter that is capable of sending Leshy's crew the required coordinates. Unfortunately, it is being protected by what is thought to be the last of the military at a base. The leader teams up Kostian, who is leading a small group of Freedom soldiers who are conducting a raid at the same location, with Scar in order to secure the territory for Freedom. Scar activates the transmitter after facing significant resistance at the base and watches as Leshy and his team escape. Scar is then informed that they are currently across the bridge. Lebedev responds to this development right away. A sizable group of Clear Sky soldiers heads to the bridge in anticipation of Scar's arrival so they can launch an assault, after persuading Leshy and his men to help Clear Sky cross the opposite side. When he finally arrives, he helps Lebedev and the Clear Sky warriors protect Leshy's team from bandit snipers as they drop the drawbridge. After that, everyone gives heartfelt appreciation, and the route is now free. Scar departs with the first advance team, traveling for Lemansk. At this point, pressure is increasing. Bandits, surviving military personnel, and the Monolith Group are at the battle on the streets of Lemansk. Scar needs Clear Sky's assistance as he travels the difficult streets that have been devastated by conflict. Scar must survive many Monolith ambushes after taking out a machine gun nest before making it to a partially built, strongly fortified multi-story structure. After escaping, he assists in turning off the electricity to the electrical fences that were blocking his exit from Lemansk. The last remaining option for him is to proceed through an underground corridor that is located soon after an abandoned hospital. Monolith, who are swarming in the hospital, are pinning down another advance team. Together, the armies of Scar and Clear Sky push through the hospital to the NPP on the other side. Despite fierce opposition, Scar succeeds. However, a Me-Too under military control shows up in the process. Everyone in the hospital, including Scar, is shot as the attack begins. While the Clear Sky squad catches up, Scar takes down the helicopter on his own. The squad waits behind as they enter the tunnels, giving Scar a chance to get to the NPP. It's time for the final battle. While protecting himself from Monolith and Clear Sky, Strelec is present. Lebedev thanks Scar for assisting them in getting to the center and asks for his assistance in resolving the situation once and for all. Scar is required to utilize a prototype electromagnetic pulse gun to disable the psi blocker Strelec is wearing. Lebedev thinks that after Strelok is defeated, the activity in the zone will stabilize because Strelok cannot survive the strong psi emissions without the aid of the device. Scar uses the Gauss rifle to take out the machine and is successful despite having to battle through a horde of monolith warriors. Readings are done to determine whether the stabilization is starting once Strelok has been beaten. There is a sudden, huge emission that is out of the ordinary in scope. Everyone nearby, whether they are a part of Clear Sky or not, is affected by the emission and starts to perish. In the last cut scene, people can be seen crammed inside the NPP's hallways, shivering strangely, as video displays flash old, blurry black and white photographs of the NPP. These warnings indicate that individuals who haven't already died from the blast would soon suffer a worse destiny, such as being brainwashed into joining the monolith forces or, like Strelok, becoming unintentional agents of the common consciousness. The scene is now set for the Shadow of Chernobyl episode of the Zone saga to unfold, with the story continuing as seen through Strelok's eyes. I will upload the next episode of Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl story shortly. To get notified, subscribe and hit the bell icon, and drop your thoughts about this video in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys.